And then give some introductions and we'll get going. Okay, can everybody see my screen with the title? All right, thanks, Miriam. Okay, so today we're going to be sharing with you Got Quality, how to communicate your online quality to students. And really what we're going to be talking about is a question that we had that spurred us to do a research project so that we could get the answer to this question of what students consider to be quality and what it would motivate them to do when they were experiencing quality. And then from that, we came to how you would be able to communicate that quality to students. So I am Barbara Burch, for any of you who do not know me. I'm the manager of research and development at Quality Matters. And also presenting with me today is Dr. Bethany Simonich, and she is the Director of Research and Innovation for Quality Matters. So Bethany is going to be watching the chat and really helping with that during the first portion. So how many of you have ever wondered if online course quality actually matters to students? Raise your hands if you've wondered that at some point or another. Okay, so are a lot of people raising their hands in the chat, Bethany? Oh, I
Yes.
can see.
Yeah, on their screens, and they're also using the thumbs up, but
Okay.
I see messages in the chat.
All right. Well, yeah, I think it's a pretty common thing to wonder about. So I'm going to ask you to put in the chat to share why or why not, why you have ever wondered this, or maybe why it hasn't been a concern for you.
And as you do that, I'm going to give you a little bit more background on kind of why we're asking this question. So a lot of institutions over the years have come to Quality Matters and say, you know, we're doing all this revision and redesign and professional development for faculty in order to design and teach high quality online courses. And we know that it matters in terms of student learning and student satisfaction, but what we have a hard time discerning is whether or not it's on students' radar that when they're enrolling in an institution or they're enrolling in a course, that they want to actually look for quality and look for ways that that institution is communicating that they do quality online and do online well. So with a pandemic, though, a lot more students started to think about, well, you know, if I'm at an institution, I want to make sure that they have the infrastructure and the training and whatnot to really do online well, so that I know that I'm getting getting a quality online education. So that's really the impetus for us to ask this question and to move forward and really talk to students and figure out what are they thinking. So when you are, deciding whether or not online course quality matters to students, what are some of the things that you're hearing at your institution or hearing from your students? So Barbara, let's take a look at the chat now. Oh my goodness, so many good comments in the chat. Okay, so Eddie, you're talking about student success data, and so in terms of accreditation, so communicating that quality to your accrediting bodies, absolutely. Seeing some instructors do compared to all the work. All right, so it's an equal measure there between instructional designers and faculty sometimes. Okay, and Amy's saying, we put all this time and energy into creating high quality courses. Is this something that is on students' radar? Are they thinking about it? Florida's thinking about adding a quality indicator to the catalog. That's actually a really good idea. Putting a lot of effort in, wanting to make sure if students see that, wondering if students see that. Stephanie's saying she knows that it matters because students have stated it in course surveys. And that's something actually that QM saw a lot more, especially after the spring pivot to remote, that students started commenting on quality, online quality, in ways that they hadn't before. Several of you speaking in terms of students in your own families and how they're talking more about quality. Shannon, very good comment. Approaching quality from a design perspective, and seeing how, does that align to how students perceive quality, and that really gets to the heart of what we're asking as well, Shannon. Okay.
All right.
Difference in student rating of instructors. That's a big one. Yeah. Great comments.
Okay, so yes, we suspected that a lot of you had been wondering about this, and we know that because we've had a lot of questions over the years from individuals in our member institutions just asking, well, what's the evidence that quality really matters to students? What do they do differently if they experience courses, online programs that have been designed according to Quality Matters or certified with Quality Matters? So we decided that we wanted to go ahead and do some research in this area, and we decided to begin with a lit review, as any good researcher will do. And so on this slide and the next slide, I'm just sharing some of the sources that we found with you. And also Paula is going to put in the chat how you can get access to the PowerPoint of the presentation, as well as a handout that goes through and gives the full references for each of these. So there was relevant research out there on student motivations, how they choose between the modalities of online and face-to-face, what matters in terms of quality to students. And here's the other slide that I mentioned, closing the feedback loop, faculty training and student perceptions, engagement, and so forth. All righty, so once we had done the lit review, we were able to find some themes that were standing out. In terms of student motivation for choosing online programs, flexibility, cost, program reputation, and the time investment that would be involved. So those are some of the themes that the research was showing. Also, we were able to see what some of the features that students like in online courses are. And a lot of that had to do with interaction between the students and their instructors and students and each other. That was mentioned frequently, as well as there being clear instructions and expectations for the course, and regular feedback that was clear and timely and so forth, and then support for themselves as students. So that we did find that there was some research and some literature out there to kind of help us know what students like in their courses, and what reasons they might have to choose online courses or online programs in the first place. But importantly, we didn't find in the research literature specifically something to address whether or not quality was a differentiator for students between different types of courses, different online courses that they might choose from, or different types of online programs. So we knew there was a gap in the literature for us to fill, and we were encouraged by that to move forward and actually do some research. And these are the research questions that we have set out in this project to answer. So what do students perceive to be markers of quality in online courses or programs? You know, they have an idea of what it is for them, but in order to know that that's taking place, they need some type of a mark or a signal to know that there's quality there. The second research question is, how do students determine if markers of quality are present in a course prior to enrolling? So some of the things that the literature said that students like the interaction and the feedback and so forth. Well, those are things that students experience once they're in the course, but how could they tell that those things are present in the course or the online program prior to actually enrolling and beginning the course or the program. And then the third question was, do markers of quality for online courses and programs play a part in students' decisions to enroll in them? So in other words, does that matter enough to them for them to actually go ahead and take that step to enroll in an online program or to choose a certain online course over another one? So we knew we wanted to get started with this research and to answer those research questions, but we didn't feel extremely confident that by going forward and doing a quantitative study, asking questions of hundreds and hundreds of students, that we had exactly the right questions to be asking. So we decided to approach the research in a mixed methods fashion, um, with a qualitative component, and that's what we began with student and advisor interviews to kind of dig a little bit deeper into what students like, what they consider to be quality, what their reactions were to the remote instruction that took place in spring 2020, because really any of them who were high school students or college students at that time, they were experiencing that type of instruction. And as Bethany mentioned earlier, that made them consider more carefully what quality really meant to them. Students were very good about really noticing and consciously being aware of what was not necessarily the greatest during the remote instruction. And as a result of that, it made them think about, well, what would the opposite of this be, or what would improve this aspect of the courses that I really didn't like, and that made me feel like I wasn't a part of it and I wasn't learning. So we wanted to do those interviews, which were very interesting. We got a lot of good information from them. And so we were able to generate some themes from the interviews and come up with some quantitative questions that we were going to go ahead and survey the students with. And we decided also that it was important to format the questions in terms of ratings and Likert scale so that we can make sure that the study is a valid one. Okay, and at this point in time, I'm going to hand off the discussion and presentation to Bethany. But first, I'm going to have Paula launch our first poll, because we're going to share with you some themes that we found from the interviews that we did on the definitions of a quality course. So Paula, if you would share that poll and give everyone a moment. So how do you
Okay.
think, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah. So you should be seeing the pull up on your screen, and it's asking you, how do you think students define quality in their online courses? So I'm going to watch those votes coming in, and I'm going to wait until at least half of you have voted. So, all
And
right.
then
Do you
just
think
tell me
it's,
when you want me to forward.
I got it up on the screen. Hopefully I can do the technology. If not, thank goodness Barbara and Paula are here as well. All right, so just a couple more seconds if you want to weigh in. Okay, so let me share those results with you. So it looks like the number one choice there from all of you was organization and efficiency, followed secondly by clarity of communication, and then interactivity, and then ease, able to get a good grade. Okay, so how did your answers compare to what students said? So we're going to go on to the next slide. So these were some of the themes that we pulled from the interview. So as Barbara mentioned, we started with interviews with high school students who were looking to enroll in college, with current college students, both undergraduate and graduate. And we also interviewed advisors, both academic advisors and faculty advisors, really trying to get at the heart of what's going through students' minds when they're thinking about online learning in terms of quality, if they even are thinking about quality in terms of online learning when they're enrolling. So these are some of the themes that came from those interviews. Good communication was at the heart of it. So it's not just communication from the faculty member in a traditional way that we might think of, but also really that idea that teaching presence begins with the design of the course and carries out through the active facilitation. So when we hear things from students that the material is communicated well, that is your direct instruction, from the faculty member. That is the start of their teaching presence, and that is maybe communication in a way that we don't traditionally think of, but communicating that the knowledge of the course well, thinking in terms of feedback. Am I giving students feedback in a timely manner? Is it useful? And are students part of that feedback loop? That's something that we heard as well. Measuring student performance, there was a lot of things that came out that I pulled out in terms of students thinking about those formative assessments. So do they have a chance to kind of track their knowledge, to see their knowledge gains? Empowerment and motivation, encouragement, they were all issues that came out. Relevance was a big thing as well. And I know that it's something that we talk a lot about as educators, but the fact that it was on students' minds and they were really, some of them looking at content in terms of, is this going to be relevant to me in future courses, in my future career? Is this something that I could use? That was definitely a theme that came out. Interactivity in terms of course materials. So moving away from kind of that stagnant course with your PDFs and multiple choice exams to things that are a lot more cognitively engaging even. Organizational efficiency, so making sure that navigation is good, the organization within the module is good, and that's something that all of you picked up on as well in your responses. Another, engagement with content, and then instructor-student collaboration and peer collaboration. So do any of those themes that came out surprise you? I mean, make a note in the chat if some of these things are either reinforcing what you're seeing at your own institution, or if some of these themes that came out were a surprise for you. Okay. Okay, and Eddie's saying clearly communicated expectations are key. Absolutely, Eddie. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so the next thing that we asked were definitions of non-quality. So when you think, boy, this course is really not good, it's just not a high quality course, how are students really thinking through that, and what are some of the themes and aspects that they're pulling away when they say this is not good? Surprises, uncertainty, lack of communication. So not a surprise for us there. We talked to some students who, had experiences in their online course that I'm sure all of us have heard. They emailed their professor, they didn't hear back, they weren't sure what was going on in the course. So it wasn't just a lack of communication, but it was leaving them feeling confused, frustrated. It increased that transactional distance as well. A lot of, sort of course in a can, online textbook. I'm interacting mostly with the publisher, not with my instructor as much. Those slide presentations that maybe really should have been a handout. So not using presentation software well as a presentation, making those slides a little bit too text heavy. Your students do pick up on that. Busy work, unclear relevance. So that goes back to this idea of authentic assessments, making learning relevant to what students are going to be doing in other courses or in their future career. Unresponsive instructor goes, I think, hand in hand with that lack of communication. Same thing with no interaction. And again, a lot of information about it wasn't organized well. I couldn't navigate. I wasn't sure what I was doing. So I'm sure a lot of you also are just automatically connecting these to some QM standards when things aren't organized well. I mean, that plays into the getting started 1.1. It plays into our navigation standard 8.1. Same thing with, lack of communication from the instructor, General Standard 5 allows you to kind of plan those things out. So at this point, we kind of got excited because we were seeing a lot of intersection between what the students were saying and what we were trying to, reflect and see reflected in the QM rubric. All right, next slide. All right, and I believe that we have a poll for this slide as well. Okay. Okay, so right now you see poll 2 up on the screen, and these are important features. So what do you think students will say are the most important features in really good online classes, the best online classes that they've taken? So you have a number of options there, and we'll give you just a minute to respond. And while you do that, I'll take a look in the chat. So Jonna says, I think this matches what you're seeing in your student end of term comments. I like that. Organization mentioned a lot. Difficult to navigate mentioned a lot. Busy work. Busy work, busy work. Yes. I'm really happy to hear that what we heard from the students that we interviewed, you're also seeing and seeing echoed at your own institutions. Okay, just another second or so on the poll. All right, so I'm going to end that and share out the results to you. So again, organization tops the list. And I think that, it's sort of a no-brainer in the sense that when students get into that online or hybrid course on day one, that is the first thing that they have to do. They are going to have to interact with that course. And in that, they're interfacing with the navigation, the organization. If they don't know how to get started, if they don't know how to find crucial elements, they're kind of stopped even before learning begins, right? So I'm not surprised to see that as the #1 choice for all of you as well, followed very closely by interaction with instructors and other students. So yes, big theme there. Instructors who were prepared to teach online, who were comfortable teaching online, who had that acumen in online teaching and a reliable platform in terms of technology. Okay, so those are some of the top ones there. Now, when we were talking to students about online, and we tried not to prime them initially for online thinking. We led them kind of through this, interview process of just thinking about quality for their courses in general, and then bringing it back to online. And then we talked to them about what happened during the spring emergency pivot. So, as I mentioned at the start, a lot of this happened because, hang on, I'm trying to dismiss the polls. Okay, a lot of this research really came to a head because in spring 2020, we not only saw virtually every student having some type of remote learning experience or fully online learning experience, but it also elevated that conversation about quality online learning, as all of you know. So looking at the spring pivot and asking them about that and asking them about their experience, this is probably not a big surprise. There was some disappointment just because of the nature of the spring pivot. So I got something different than what I paid for. The instructor makes the difference, especially in that synchronous format. And that was something else that kind of muddied these waters a little bit. So I know many of you have been in online learning for many, many, many years. And you know that prior to the pandemic, we had really experienced mostly asynchronous online learning emerging as the #1 type of online course for over a decade there. So I think online started out, there was a bigger mix, a deeper mix of synchronous and asynchronous, especially for those of you that remember streamed classes and point-to-point communication. But for students, these synchronous online classes that were really remote instruction, that kind of muddied the waters a little bit, and it took a different type of teaching strategy to really be effective. So students saw that, right? And that comment there, the instructor makes the difference. That instructor contribution was a theme that came out again and again. Realization about how disorganized a course can be. So again, with the organization, online students could be great, but it was a matter of preparation. They should be carefully planned. And then also this last comment I think is really poignant. I realized my entire education could be online, and so I cared more about quality. And that really is a big takeaway here, that students are now having a realization that even though they maybe had never anticipated taking an online course, and they really were those face-to-face campus-based students, they're now seeing that there are times that even if they're campus-based, they may be driven online to continue their education. And now they're considering online quality again in a way that they haven't. Okay, next slide, please. So we also ask students, well, what would that external validation mean, right? And obviously this is a very poignant and timely question for Quality Matters and its members. And it's something that a lot of member institutions have asked us over the years. How can I display, when my courses get QM certified in a formal review, how can I display that logo so that students know that this course is differentiated, that the quality has been validated? And same thing for online programs. So a lot of institutions are pursuing program certification for those fully online programs, whether undergraduate or graduate. And so we wanted to know, are these external validations of quality on students' radar? Because if you think about it, it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg theory, right? If you advertise the quality of classes, but students don't know, maybe what that logo means or how you're advertising it, it maybe doesn't have that full meaning. But on the same hand, if you really help students understand, well, what does this validation of quality mean? What are we validating here? What does this mean to you when you're enrolling in an institution or choosing courses? Then that lends a lot more, information and credibility to that. So what would that external validation mean? So students said things like, it would mean that the course is credible. It's a good course. It would be one way for them to determine that this is a course that they should enroll in over another course where maybe they're not sure if it has good organization or a good involved instructor that's prepared. I thought the second comment there was very astute. The instructor is being held accountable for the course structure, meaning that, again, it's organization, but it's also that instructor involvement, that faculty involvement. It's more engaging. I would be getting what I'm expecting or what I paid for. And cost and finances is part of this conversation, right? Especially when we have so many students paying for their own education, going deep into debt. They are making a choice for what is my dollar buying in terms of education and in terms of preparing me for the future, for getting the job that I want, for example. And then that external validation really did come in some comments saying that, this other group external to my institution, so not just that internal benchmarking or internal validation, but a third party, right, who is not involved in that design of the course, really said this course is well designed. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so these are some of the sample questions from the survey as well. And let's see. Trying to look at the polls here a little bit. Okay,
The next poll is on slide 15. So
slide 15.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are some sample questions from the survey, and we've listed some of the options there. So if you were to advise a friend or regarding the best online classes you've taken, how important were the following features? So again, what we did was we interviewed all these online students, these online advisors, we pulled the themes from there, and then we created a sample survey, which we are currently piloting. So what are these important features that you looked for? Interaction was one of them. At least some synchronous sessions, because students now, especially if they're taking a synchronous online course, they want to know that it's also going to be well handled. They're going to know when to meet. Instructors who are prepared for teaching online, who are comfortable teaching online, a good organizational format for the course, a reliable platform. And these particular questions were ranked in terms of importance. Okay. Okay, and next slide. All right, and if you were to advise a friend, so, we kind of got into this idea that when students enroll at an institution, when they enroll in courses, when they're already at an institution, there is a lot of dialogue that happens between friends, even between professors and students at an institution. And they're kind of asking each other, is this a good course? Is this a good professor? Should I take this course? How's it organized? And those conversations are going on. That is something that came out in our interviews as well. So in terms of talking to their friends and making good recommendations for classes, what is their preference for asynchronous or synchronous online learning? Instructors' level of preparedness, so they definitely are talking about the delivery of the course. So if you're familiar with that online quality pie, that's both faculty readiness and course delivery. They're using the Rate My Professor sort of platforms. I know many of you are familiar with those. How difficult is the subject matter? So this, and from my perspective, really spoke to student readiness. Students were thinking, you know, can I be a successful online student? Do I have the technology? Do I have, some of that self-discipline? Am I moving towards being more of a self-directed learner? Because some of them were thinking in terms of, if it's a more difficult class and I don't feel I'm ready for online, maybe that's not the course that I take online. And a lot of them were looking at the syllabus just as they do for face-to-face and campus-based classes, and kind of, doing an overview, getting a lay of the land, seeing if it was a course that they did want to take. And again, these were also questions that were ranked in order of importance. Okay, and we do have a poll, I think, associated with this slide. Am I right, Barbara?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to launch our final poll. Okay. So what do you think students would say? So they are now in this situation where they've been through the spring pivot, right? We all got through that. Many of them took summer courses where some were remote instruction, some were fully online instruction. We're now in the fall where many institutions have a mix of hybrid, or they might have some remote, some fully online. A lot of them have pivoted back to fully online, or will do so, after some of the holiday breaks. So where do you think students are sitting just in terms of their perspective for online learning? And as you do that, I'm going to look at some of the comments in the chat. Oh, Shannon, that's a great comment. So she's saying in Oregon State, they survey students annually, and interaction with the instructor is consistently ranked as most important to students. Absolutely. Christopher saying transcripts for videos and podcasts are one of the most widely noted features as an indicator signaling student success. Okay. Oh, Constance has a question. How many students were surveyed? Barbara, I don't know if you remember that off the top of your head. For the interviews,
The interviews, we did about 15 interviews, and that's what we really used to help us in formulating the survey questions and then the responses to offer.
and we tried to get a good mix, Constance, of students at different institutions, different types of institutions, different places in their academic career as well. And we also had collected some demographic information from them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll in just a minute. Okay, let me share those results out. Okay, so again, organization tops the list. I'm sensing a theme here, everybody. Okay, and then really seeing themselves in terms of online education. I have preferences for subjects for which I would enroll in online. Some may have a preference for face-to-face in-person classes. Others saying maybe I can envision online learning in the future. So this is a theme that actually also came out in QM and Quality Matters and EduVenture's recent Chloe 5 report, and that is that students actually, surprisingly, and faculty alike, a lot of them came out of the pandemic with some really positive perspectives about online learning. And a lot of things actually, I think, went unexpectedly well that allowed students to say, maybe I could be a really good online student, or maybe I should look towards more online classes or fully online program. And same thing with the faculty experience. So again, going back to our sample questions here for a minute, to what extent did you realize or think about the following after your experience with that spring remote pivot? And this was asking students, can you envision yourself in taking online classes in the future? Do you think that it has a lot of potential and whatnot? So again, this is part of the quantitative survey that we are currently piloting out. Okay, and next slide. Okay, And also we asked some opinion questions here. In your opinion, a quality class is one where the following are true. Good, clear communication of content. The content is easy to find, so that findability issue, it's organized well and in a logical and efficient manner, and specific feedback to the students from the instructor, timely feedback, and then again, that idea of the feedback loop. So is student feedback encouraged? And I think that's something where a lot of us collect student feedback data, whether it's individually within our course or it's more robustly done at an institution. But I think what's sometimes missing from that piece and that process is using that student feedback well. So anytime you collect student feedback, let your students know, I'm collecting this information because here's how we're going to use it, and maybe even repeat back some of those themes. So just, a little side thing there to consider as an instructor when you get those student feedback surveys, and you can even think about doing one mid-semester. Let them know that I heard a lot of the things that you were saying, and if there's maybe even some changes that you could make going forward, but definitely utilize that in the course revision. Does the instructor encourage participation? And then this last one, this is a theme that came out where, when I thought about it, it didn't surprise me, but initially it did. This idea of just enjoying your education and enjoying the class. And in listening to some of the interviews, I think what students are really thinking about and talking about when they're thinking about the enjoyability of the course is that instructor enthusiasm, the instructor motivation, the things that the instructor does, in terms of feedback, announcements, individual emails, good organization, just to make the class enjoyable and to create that sense of being in a learning community. So one interesting theme I think that came out there. Okay, and next slide. So what do you think students are looking for? How are you communicating or advertising quality, whether it's in terms of that individual course or a select program at your institution or institution-wide? And what do you think students perceive as a quality online course? And that could be based on your experiences as a faculty member, an instructional designer, an online student yourself. And do you think online quality is more important to students after the spring 2020 remote pivot? So this is not a poll. Barbara and I really wanted to ask you these questions, as educators, and I know some of you are online students as well, to kind of see how our perceptions maybe match up or in ways that they don't align with what we are hearing from online students and also the advisors that help our online students. So feel free to type in the chat. I believe that you can also unmic and respond that way, but truly this is the audience participation portion. We want to hear from all of you. So how are you communicating or advertising quality? Oh, and there's a question in the chat. Miriam asked, were these mostly QM certified courses? We do not know. We did not interview the students in terms of what classes have you taken, at which institution, and then looked to see whether or not that they were QM certified. But that's a very good question. We really were anticipating that students would have a mixed experience in terms of quality and maybe lower quality online learning. All right, how are you communicating quality to your institution? Advertising quality, okay. Let me pop here in the chat. All right, now everything's coming in. I'm going to try to keep up. Okay, so at your institution, Stacy, you're getting courses QM certified and you're advertising that to students. Can you add an additional comment or unmic and let us know how you're advertising that?
Yes, ma'am. We're making sure, of course, that the, excuse me, inside the courses that they've got the Quality Matters logo. They are supposed to be putting it also on our registration page. I'm not sure if they are actually doing that right now. But we're making sure, like when a student logs in, that's the first thing that they see, that's a Quality Matters course. And so a lot of times you'll have a student that'll take a course, and then of course that passes along to their friends as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And also I think, you know, what's happening there for institutions that do that and that advertise it on that course page or in the enrollment catalog, you're raising that awareness for students that there is this validation of quality, and then it's something that students begin to look for. So that's amazing. Uh, Kirsten's echoing that a little bit, saying we're a K-12 organization. We put in our course schedule if a course has been certified.
We also have had some like an internal like newsletters or whatever that go out, their emails, but that we talk about how instructors have been quality matters certified. So that kind of gets the information out there to other instructors. But then there also have been a lot of articles written up in the local paper as well, talking about that.
Oh,
So
okay.
students can get that information that way too.
Okay, so those are additional things. So you're talking also in terms of that faculty readiness and that course delivery, so that students don't just see that the design of the course has been quality certified, but that they have some assurance that the professor of the course has some training in online teaching and learning. So that's a very, it's an important, I think, companion piece to this. And then also, you know, I think everybody has seen this, especially since the pandemic, so many more articles in local press and national press as well about quality online learning, tying that in some cases to accreditation, but also, you know, really saying from an institutional perspective, this is something that is on our radar, and this is something that we are determined to do and offer our students. So yeah. Thank you so much, Stacy. I appreciate that quality. I mean, the quality comment. I meant comment, but I said quality. Um, so Wendy, you're saying, I know that Wendy Teets, you have a QM certified course. So advertising that just individually as a faculty member, every month after registration starts, you email your students about what to expect in the course. I love it. Okay. Sharon saying your previous institution quality was advertised through QM certification icons and through promoting the numbers of online classes that were available. I love it. Amy uses the QM logo in your courses. And I know, Amy, that you work in the College of Business Administration, and you have that fully online MBA program that I know that you're working to certify. So that university webpage highlights all the QM courses at the institution. And then you're currently working with your college as additional ways to advertise. Chuck's emphasizing that word of mouth between students, right? So I think that's an important theme here to really think about, that in the absence of an institution or a faculty member purposefully advertising the quality of their classes, know that students are still having these conversations. That is one big thing that came out, probably no surprise to anybody here on the line today. Students talk about which courses are good and which courses are not good. And those conversations about what is good online and what is quality online, I think they're even more important now, and students are having them in more and robust ways. Shannon saying through various rankings, research related to online education, putting what we learned from research into action, and sharing student stories. Wow, that is just a full 360 view. That's amazing, Shannon. Okay. Kirsten's sharing social media. You know, that's something that we heard a little bit, did not surprise me at all, because, you know, as you know, students are on social media as well. It is something where students are talking about their courses. Social media, I think, in some ways also changed the conversation about quality, because students are able to share parts of their online course, and they do. This has happened in the past. When a student is taking a lower quality online course, they can essentially talk about that on social media, and they can talk about it in ways that are a little bit more verifiable sometimes than a face-to-face course. So it is something to keep in mind, that again, absent of a faculty or an institution really purposefully creating and controlling that conversation about quality, these conversations are still going on from our students. Okay. Ronnie's saying all online courses need to be QM certified. Vicky's saying the advertising has been more general. Okay, because some faculty don't like the idea that a colleague's course might get a quality rating, right? So that is an issue that we've spoken about with some of our members, that they're working to certify a lot of the quality for their online courses and put them through those certification reviews, but they don't necessarily want to privilege one course over the other. I would say that one good option there is to really then talk about how your institution is promoting and validating quality, what the process that you have for that is, knowing that you can't do all the courses at one time, but at least be having the conversation, and maybe include in that some of the fundamental ways that all courses are meeting some maybe good organization, for example, or some of the common course policies that you have. Um, all right, trying to scan this. These are such good comments.
Or even the professional development that you're doing, because just because a course hasn't been through the review process, the professional development that's happening is is helping everybody raise the bar.
Right, absolutely. And I think that I know that a lot of institutions do internal reviews as well. So that's another way to have the quality conversation, even if right now, your institution likely has a pathway or process for formal reviews, but in many cases that could take years, right? That doesn't mean that you can't do internal reviews, that you can't do self-reviews, that there aren't other, measures for quality implementation and ways to talk about that. So I would say, don't let that formal certification be a barrier to starting to talk about quality online learning at your institution, because I know all of you are already doing some things. So as Barbara mentioned, you can talk about the professional development. You can talk about how courses are designed to meet QM standards, best practices, and research supported practices in online learning, and talk about those internal reviews as well. Okay. And Barb, if you want to take us to the final slide there. I know we only have a couple minutes left. So, as I said, we're in sort of a second phase pilot for this. This is rather careful research work, and we're trying to really proceed cautiously, get as much information that we can. So, if this is something though that you're interested in participating in, we are looking to collaborate with institutions and faculty, and to really be able to communicate with your students, and for your students to be able to take this survey. Obviously, as the research department in QM, we want to make it as generalizable as possible. So we'd love to hear from as many types of institutions, types of courses, and types of students as possible. So if you're interested and you'd like to collaborate with us on this, please do reach out to Barbara. Her email address is there, and you can send her an email and we will follow up with you. Kirsten's asking, is this something you may extend into K-12? Absolutely, and very good question. Absolutely. So, we piloted this more as a higher ed endeavor, frankly, because it was, a little bit easier for us to get some of the undergraduate, graduate students, those faculty advisors, those academic advisors as well. So, but yes, we'd like to extend this into K-12. Absolutely. Okay. So yes, Kirsten and Lita, if you would like to be involved in this at the K-12 level, please do email Barbara. I really appreciate that. Oh, and Chuck, that's a very good point. So Chuck's talking about, we have those college and high school programs as well. So if you are designing college courses that are intended to be taken or can be taken by high school students, that's definitely something to think about as well. Okay, so we will end it there. I'm going to check to see if there are any questions in the chat, or you could unmic yourself. We do have a couple minutes left. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to unmic or to type them in the chat. And if not, I wanted to thank all of you so much for joining us on this session today. I really appreciate the conversation that all of you have brought to this as well.
I'm just going to also say thank you to everyone, and that you should be on the lookout for results of this. Now, the survey isn't going to be administered tomorrow. We are still in the process of getting set to do that and piloting the survey with a small group to make sure that it's actually ready for prime time. But we will certainly share the results very widely, and we do suspect that what we are going to come out with are some results that show that quality actually makes a big difference to students in determining which courses or online programs they would like to enroll in, and that there'd be enough detailed information from the survey results to give us all some ideas about how we can share the information about quality that matters to students when they're making those decisions. So thank you all so much for joining us this morning, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yep, thank you so much. And Sharon, I just wanted to touch on your question there in the chat. It's a very good one. Do you know if there are certain kinds of promotion that students find the most convincing? That is absolutely one of the things that we're trying to determine. So right now, the answer to that question is no, we do not fully know that. Part of that reason is because institutions advertise quality in so many different ways, and there is not necessarily a consistent, meaning or attribute to a particular type of advertisement. So those are that's one of the things that we're trying to ascertain. Very good question. Yes, this was recorded, Michael, so the recording will be up there. The slides are up there for you as well as the PDF for references for those of you that want to dive into some of the research behind what we're doing here. All right, I think
Well, I just want to say thank you as well to Barbara and Bethany for helping us expand on how we have conversations about quality, especially with students. And also want to remind and thank you all for participating and attending this session. And I know Beth sent a link this morning with this Zoom link to the survey for the session. So if you could complete that, that would be great. Have a great conference.
Thank you all so much. I'll see you
Thanks,
on the
everyone.
line.
Bye-bye.